Okay, so I was told to tell you about Project 8. So that's what we're going to do. Project 8. You guys get to vote what our next faction is. They would be the 8th faction, ergo Project 8. We're ninjas. Creative with our names. The choice is going to be between one of three factions. So the first faction is the Sorcerer Kings. We're going to be working on, let's call it Araby, Northern India, and possibly Southeast Asia theme running through them. These are the sorcerers that used the anathematics ritual to bring down Haslia. To do so, they bound their souls to basically the elemental princes slash lords slash souls of balance. And as a result, took on a lot of their traits. They fled Haslia's counterstroke and destruction of Capitas and pretty much the rest of the world by literally using their demigod elemental power, ridiculous power levels, to raise a chain of mountains out into sea. And at the very end of that chain, they literally raised a new continent. So it's not the sinking of Atlantis, it's the raising of Atlantis. Goal is to focus on three sub-factions. You're going to have the tribes, who were the people who followed them, but they didn't have a particular plan for, so they're left out into the very difficult and barren wastelands of what is obviously an artificial continent. You're going to have the enclaves that are going to be the cities that they planned to support their courts. These cities are going to be lush, powerful oases influenced by all four of the elemental mages, of the Sorcerer Kings. And lastly, you're going to have the courts. Each court is going to be focused on a particular element, earth, air, fire, and water, drawing again on the visual influences that I mentioned before. The second faction is Hell, single L. These guys are what happens when you don't learn your lessons and you don't put down your enemies and you just torture and imprison them. So the Aesir and the Vanir of Norse mythology have been revealed to be weavers and spires who, for the first time in their history, worked together. And as a result, were much more powerful than the weavers or the spires individually. They were able to craft the Yggdrasil world tree, basically a titanic spire with strong weaver influences. And they basically were gods, effectively, to the Nord population. There's a whole saga with what exactly happened and what they did and why they were betrayed. You can read that in the Living World. And effectively, Loki betrays Odin, tells Haslia what's going on, and basically opens a back door for him by preventing the awakening of the Einherjar. Yggdrasil gets burnt down, and now we actually get to the point of the thing. Yggdrasil was powerful enough to have trapped a dragon in its roots. That dragon is Nidhogg from Norse mythology. And he was what the spire was drawing on to become so powerful. Now, in all of this, there is also an organic supercomputer. Again, if you want to get into the details of this, you're going to have to go to the Living World to get it. And Loki's daughter, her imprint is left in that supercomputer, and so she's not happy either. And she teamed up with a dragon and the last living remnants of the dwarf race to corrupt the Nord, let's call them death cult that had been raised around the Einherjar, to provide them with shock troops and soldiers. Then they also have Nidhogg's spawn. And by combining biomancy and Nidhogg's gametes, basically, they've also spawned a new, you can't really call them race, more of a demi-race of gargoyle-draconic angry things. These three instances, so Nidhogg, Hela, and the last remaining dwarves, literally there's three of them, don't expect regiments of them, are basically going to go out and take their revenge on everybody, mostly the Duram, because it's always the Duram's fault. Lastly, we have, we still haven't come down on a name for them, either the Sellswords or the Dogs of War, what you would expect, the Mercenary faction. They are going to be centered around the Polmag principalities, which are how to describe them. They are trapped between the 100 Kingdoms and the Rus, between the city-states and the 100 Kingdoms, and they have a Dwargom hold and spires near them. So, very rich, but nobody really wants them to develop their own power, so the status quo has become that they are the mercenary masters, the mercenary lords. And their armies basically draw on countless mercenaries, and the interesting bit about them is that those mercenaries are not all human. So while they don't have as crazy a lore as, let's say, angry cultists slash draconians slash dragons, or, jinn wielding elemental sorcerers, they do have basically troops from every other faction. You're going to see Dwargom Drake Slayers. You're going to see the private guards of Spire Merchant Princes. You are going to see mercenary Nords, those that were left behind after the invasion, sort of like the Normans. You're even going to see sneak peeks of the Weavers. You're going to sneak peeks of the Quiet and other races that I don't actually know at the time of making this video if I'm allowed to tell you about. And basically how they work and what the structure is. And the beautiful thing that we're going to try to do is to try to link these, let's call them race-specific units back to their army so they can be selected as restricted choices. So, without further ado, that sums up Project 8. Log on to the Living World, vote, and basically decide what you want the next faction to be. It's pretty much up to you.